Good morning. The role of money in the nation. Money is to give a value to goods. This is what majority of everyone understands from the money. Give a value to all goods, commodities. What human being fails to understand is money was meant to transport. It's the vehicle that transports the emotions from one person to another. Consider if, for instance, each person is rich and has all what he wants. Every person is rich in a nation. When people buy and sell or trade with each other, they trade with each other with the suspension of their feelings, sentimental feelings, emotions. I buy and sell, which is, for instance, let's say, I send you something, you bring me something, you export something, and that's it. This is what human being understands. Why there is richness, why there is poverty. We have two systems in the world, one called communism. Other regimes, perhaps systems derive from the same system, socialism, and then we have capitalism. The communist system, what does it say? It says that communism, I'm talking today, talking before, it has the right to confiscate all the properties and monopolize all the sectors in the nation, and then that's the government that directs the flow, the business, and make people all equal, supposedly. People have an access to education, healthcare. Okay, that's good, very nice. Where is the rich, where is the poor? No, they shouldn't exist. We should remove poverty. This is what they do. The world was not built, created for this, or for this purpose. No. So what people are, the trade between people, they buy and they sell between each other, or they hire, they recruit. Everything is monopolized by the government. Today it's still the same thing, by the way. And so in a lot of countries, the person is not free in his institution, it has to be from the government. Everything is like as tentacles from the octopus, everything is, the decision is taken from the top. And you have the other system on the other side of the river, I should say the ocean. Yeah, capitalism. Capitalism, feel free to own whatever you want. There is another force. Here is the force of usury. All of them, they deal with usury, but here in a capitalist system, there is usury can be reached as big as you want, as rich as you want. And then there is a banking system that is linking you with the poor people. Here you have the usury. Look at both systems, how they are. In the first one is there any role between people? As I said earlier, the prices or the money was meant to transport the emotions. For the modern man, a person who is being institutionalized, this is fanatic for him or her. People, they create a system, become systematic. When you talk about flexibility, what is the role of a human being, for them, this is fanatic. What are you talking about? Talk about love in these days? Love is a legend. Probably big chances one of these days you're going to remove it from a dictionary. Love, affection, generosity, When these are removed from life, what is left? Look at the both systems, how they operate. The creator, when he said, I made this, he didn't say I made it. He said, who are the poor and who are the rich, and what is the role of the poor and what is the role of the rich. He said, the poor are my family. Look at that. Interpretation, perhaps, you say, عيالي could be, poor could be those who are with the burden. You know, they are facing a, little bit like the life is a little harsh for them. You know, this is how he said. وَالْأَغْنِيَاءُ وُكَلَائِي, he said, and the rich are my subordinate, or I delegate something. In other words, I gave them responsibility. If they fail to care and to deal with the poor, they will face bad consequences. أذقتهم إن بخل وكلائي على عيالي أذقتهم وبالي ولم أبالي. The system, look at the system. The system is a free trade. Now, you're going to say, well, we don't do anything, we just give charity. The rich is rich, so every day he has to give a charity. No, it's not like that. So, look at the Quran where God spoke about this, about the usury. He said God had prohibited usury, has tolerated trade, and had prohibited usury. أحل الله البيع وحرم الربا. You know, when you think about the sentence in our own, if we sequence ourselves like the logic, when you speak about usury, you speak about a loan. You say God had tolerated a loan. You know, you can, lend money, but don't charge them usury. But God didn't say that. He spoke about trade. What do you understand here? By the way, those words are for those people who still have like some kind of acceptance to logic. A lot of people from different religions, they understand the only thing we got lost in this world with all these atrocities, what's going on about the systems, how they are. Person doesn't know, perhaps we need sometimes to remind those listeners, they can, understand it much better than I do. But just someone has an idea, just throw it. What do we understand from the rich and the poor? There is a flow of the emotions. There is something coming here. Person has to feel something, and then towards the poor. There is something. With God's logic, there is no middle class. The middle class, this is American and Western world created the word middle class to give them, for instance, the illusion that one day they want to become rich by borrowing, borrowing, you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't have that. This flow, it flows from rich to poor and back. And what is back? What the poor person is going to give? Richness, if it goes by itself, it reaches certain climax where it becomes detached. It becomes detached from this existence. Getting back to the word or to the verse, you say, God allows trade but prohibited usury. Consider if you have an amount of money, $1 billion. You're giving charity. Charity in Islam, this is the third pillar, I think. Yeah, Salat, Shahada, Salat, and Zakat. It's a pillar, what I'm saying? You give 1/40 from this every year. If you give 1/40 from this every year, do you see this as normal? Every year you are kind of like consuming your portfolio. Every year. It's like indirectly. What is it? How do you do it? You know that in a divine book, usury is prohibited. You're not going to put it in a bank. Well, you put it in a bank, but you're not going to gain any interest. I'm not going to gain any interest. So that it's going to stagnate, it's going to freeze like that. And every year, if I'm a good person, I'm going to give charity from it, 1/40. You can imagine, even though it's not a lot, but some conditions do apply. This is the indirect trade, you have to invest it. Do you know the banking system today is itself creating unemployment? Do you understand? they create unemployment. They create inflation themselves. They create inflation, they create hyperinflation. Look at this, what I just mentioned about how if a person has to invest it. This is not what we understand about investing, meaning to put the money in such a commodity as stock. No, we don't mean that. There is an industry here, which industry that is, I can make money. Nobody's stopping you from making money. God did not stop you. The trade is nice. That's good. You know, in agriculture or a fishing industry, invest your money there. Do you know how much money you're going to gain? You're not going to throw all your money, put half of your budget. God knows best. I'm not here, giving you. There are some people like counselors. They know this. How to give you. You know how many people you are going to save. So this is the logic of God. The word stop putting your money to be frozen because you are freezing the emotions. You are not freezing the money. We're going to go back, we make a backward, reverse, go back in history. Moses' time, alayhi salam. Korah in the Bible, in Arabic, Qarun. Korah. We know that in Egypt, that government, who call it administration, Fir'aun, Haman, Qarun, Korah. Korah's financial center, we know that collapsed by itself. Did anyone do anything to Korah? No, it had collapsed. The financial center that is built, economy that is built on usury. This is the miscarriage of the economy. A woman cannot hold a baby. She makes a good, because of weakness. She loses her baby. That's what it is, what happened to Korah, that event. There is a reenactment of that event all the time. The only thing, we don't see it with the naked eye, but it is existing. What God showed you, you don't have much choice. When richness reaches certain omnipotence, it declares war against itself. It collapsed before that. What Moses was after him about usury. No, he said, it's my money, what are you talking about? He didn't know, but because what? What happened to the richness? If that wealth was invested, these people, they become a big help to your pyramidal structure. And there is no pyramidal structure if people are following those rules. A pyramidal structure is when there is one obelisk at the top of the pyramid that controls people, and all the others are executant, deprived of their emotions. They work for the system without realizing it. When changing a topic a little bit, before that, when Moses was after him, telling him, he never is arguing. But what did he do with this, the way God described that richness? You cannot imagine how the gold, the bullion of gold, even though it was real money, it was not fiat money. I'm talking about the real money. A real money, and the system collapsed. What about if there is a fiat money that we shall see it soon? What does it mean? It collapsed. What did he do with that? إِنَّمَا أُوتِيتُهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ عِنْدِي. He went outside for exhibition to defy people. This is so. The nation divided into two sections. One section, they admire that, they look at the jewelry and this. يَا لَيْتَ لَنَا مِثْلَ مَا أُوتِيَ قَارُونَ إِنَّهُ لَذُو حَظٍّ عَظِيمٍ. Says the majority of people, they want to, that's, celebrities, looking for prestige on TV and this. And all those young girls, lovable, pretty, what I'm saying, svelte, nice, huh? All of them there. Others, ويلك. Be careful, they say. ابتغي فيما آتاك الله الدار الآخرة. Think about what God had given you. Dar al-akhir said, for the life of hereafter. Be careful. وأحسن كما أحسن الله إليك. He didn't want to hear that. So the system collapsed by itself. Nobody bombed it. When 9/11 happened, there was this philosopher, what's his name? He's a writer, philosopher, Jean Baudrillard, French philosopher. He's a very deep person. He was invited there in New York to a conference. At that moment, nobody dares or dared back then to open or to criticize or to say anything. You know what I'm saying? Because this was under threat, everybody should just keep quiet. Who did it, they know who did it, but anyway, it's not my topic. But anyway, what he said, first of all, he said, there is a terrorism of the poor and there is a terrorism of the rich. A terrorism of the poor is just in the bushes. Whatever they get handy, it's a bomb, kill people. A terrorism of the rich, no, sitting around the table of greed, plan A, plan B, how to enslave generations ahead of you. How to make countries dependent, financially dependent with usury this. So anyway, he said the terrorism of the rich and terrorism of the poor. It's one point. In a small booklet, they published it after that conference called The Spirit of Terrorism. Among things that he mentioned, what did he say? He said they said that terrorism is immoral. He said globalization is immoral, worse than that. He said when you come from the sea and you look at the Twin Towers back then, he said it shows you that one tower is declaring war or hand wrestling the other one. It's a force that is against itself. Look how the way gave this metaphor. This is what he said. You understand what does it mean? A condensation of wealth in a nation. So it collapsed by itself during Korah's time. A system, as I said, the system that is built on a trade doesn't exist, has never existed. It existed once in history, but never exists today. Today they are switching from a currency to another currency to another currency to make it a legal tender. But the system of usury is there. Do you understand? It's like a woman, the doctor told her, look, you cannot hold a baby because of such sickness. She's just trying to have a baby, you know what I'm saying? There will be a miscarriage anyway, you know, like this, but at least she has a chance, maybe if she, with some kind of like medicine treatments, she can probably have a chance to have a baby. But the miscarriage of the economy, there is no such a thing about that, about usury. Usury doesn't stand, ever. Now, the money about this charity, a person doesn't give it. Beside the charity, I'm talking about trade. You know, the trade is to invest in a business in such a way you are going to be the cause of eliminating unemployment. A lot of people are going to come to work. A Great Depression. They say a Great Depression. Why don't you speak about who caused the Great Depression? Depression is always the time. At the time in the 20s, when the elite that was holding money, enslaving others with usury, this period don't speak about it. In the 30s, the same thing, before the Second World War, they don't speak about it. What does it do to the person, money, when it is not speaking about the charity? A charity, you give a charity voluntarily. It's preferable to invest the money, and the charity is another aspect. But when you don't give it, what does it happen to you? It creates insecurity, panic attack, anxiety, and keep going. It gives the person the illusion that he's happy because he has everything, but it's not true. I mean, check it out, check it out. Who is mostly taking all these tranquilizers? People are the rich people more than the poor people. poor people, they try to follow them. That's why when they're done not satisfied with that, and they go into drugs, whatever. The others, they have drugs, but it is a civilized drug. This margin that you don't give it, it's going to cause insecurity. Insecurity, it's going to be recuperated by, compensated by what? By armaments, arms, security cameras, Doberman, and that's what it is. This is on a small scale. On a large scale, look at the way today. There's no one decade. You don't find a war that starts somewhere. Go to the First World War. 1418, and then the Second World War, and then 50s in Korea, and then the 60s in Middle East, and then the 70s in the Middle East, the beginning of 70s, and then 78 in South America, and then in 91 Gulf, it's always provoked and manipulated by that. And this is all going, especially this today. Now, when we say Kora, Qarun, it's a real money, it's the real, a bullion of gold. What about if it's a fiat money? A fiat money, what does it mean? We have a bullion of gold in the nation. A bullion, c'est le lingot d'or. Could be 10 kilograms, just an example. 10 kilograms, a bullion of gold. We are going to print a money, the equivalent of this amount of this money. We print it paper. 10, here we have 10 million. That's the weight of the gold. It costs $10 million. We print 10 million. The difference is in the bills, $10 bill, $5, $20 bill, $50, $100 bill. But when the government prints money more than what it has, this money, fiat money, is not backed by precious metal, whether gold or silver. What does it do? It causes inflation. So you understand that the system is itself, it's built in such a way that, talking about the capitalist system, the system is built in such a way that you try to approach to solve the problem, you only reinforce it against the system, is against the system itself. Because people are borrowing and the government is borrowing. The government has, how can that be? The government is going to borrow money. This is what's going on. From the beginning of the last century, when they speak about how much they can borrow, they cannot go over that. The ceiling of the budget of the country. In other words, they cannot go beyond that. But they changed it all the time. They are facing inflation. What do? There is this, what you call the kind of steps the government will take. Contractionary steps. What do? There is the interest rates. What are the interest rates? Human being doesn't have existence in such a system. Doesn't have existence. Now, what is the price in the commodity, or the price? What does it mean? The prices. We mentioned earlier that the price is, the price of the commodity, whatever. After the collapse of the financial center, I'm talking about Kora, Qarun, and Pharaoh and his army collapsed. In your opinion, they collapsed in front of people. They were drowned in the sea. God could have told Moses and his followers to go back to take over. The capital, the headquarters. Usually during war, during invasions, whatever, people, they make sure that the enemy doesn't reach the capital, the headquarters. If they reach the capital, that's it. So France, for instance, Paris, when the Second World War reached Paris, that's it. It was in the hand of the Germans. But the Russians, they were making sure not the Germans to reach Moscow, because if they reach Moscow, that's it. It's taken. That's it. So here, the situation is very easy. God could have told Moses, Moses, go to the headquarters, take over. But the question is, this is not what is the role of reality in this existence. Moses' government was, peace be upon him, was in constant transit. Because a human being is in transit. What happened next? All these events that you hear, his name is mentioned more than 134 times in the Quran, by the way. I'm talking about Moses. What happened when he went to speak to God, with God? When he came back, what they did, what happened? You know, As-Samiri in the Quran, look at what the Bible, the First and the Second Testament, it's all modified, twisted, modified, with zigzag, with such a case. That's God said it. God doesn't have something you are, I'm with you, or I'm with you. God said it in the Quran. لَيْسَ بِأَمَانِيِّكُمْ. He's talking to the Muslim. He says, not with your dreams, with your hopes. Neither those of people of the book, Jews and Christians. Whoever makes or does something wrong, he will face the consequences, he will have the repercussions. لَيْسَ بِأَمَانِيِّكُمْ وَلَا أَمَانِيِّ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ مَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِنْكُمْ سُوءًا يُجْزَى بِهِ. Do you understand? God doesn't have that. But when he said in the Quran, he said, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَلْوُونَ أَلْسِنَتَهُمْ بِالْكِتَابِ لِتَحْسِبُوهُ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَمَا هُوَ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ. Among them, talking about people of the book, they twist their tongue with the book so that you think that it is from the book. You may think that it is from the book, but it is not from the book. 3 times. So they say that As-Samiri is the one who caused the biggest tribulation in human history. We're going to see this. They call him Samaritan. It's like a savior. You know to whom did they attribute these tribulation that happened, as we're going to see it? They attribute it to Harun. In the First Testament, they attributed to Harun. They said Harun who did the tribulation, and then God forgave him. Astaghfirullah, God forbid. If a prophet of God does such a thing, God forbid. But anyway, the way you try to give image to a prophet of God, that image is a sculpture of your own. You're going to see it. But when he came back, what did he do? As-Samiri. Do you know, you saw it probably in movies, documentaries, you know, he fashioned a calf, you know, a baby bull, a calf, a baby bull with gold. And then he told them, this is your God. Question might arise. You know, usually people, when they want to make an idol, idolatry, they make it from clay. You know, he could have made it from clay. It's easier to manipulate, to fashion. Or maybe from wood. They have knives, they can sculpt it, you know, anyhow. But why he asked them to invest the gold? He asked all the children of Israel. He asked them what is linked to their hearts, which is money, the gold. So the gold is here, goes here to the calf. And you know what he did? By the way, he was a very religious person. Don't think that religious person, the disaster that comes from religious people is worse than the others. He was a very religious person. He was among Moses' closest ones. The money is in the calf. You know what? He was aware of the passage of the angel Gabriel. When an angel passes, he leaves behind him a trace, a residue, left life. He caught a glimpse from that and he threw it in a calf. The calf moved with the moaning sound. You know, dogs, they bark. You know, the calf moaning sound. When they saw him, the children of Israel, but what is behind this? They invested their hearts. Can he control people if he made it in clay? No, he can't. He can control them the prices, the fluctuation of the motion of the calf, he can control them. And this is what you see, what's going on, how the world. From that event. And Moses came back, Perhaps we change the topics. That's a very big event here when he came back. Actually, before he came down, God had told him, we have tested your people. And the Samiri, you had led them astray. إِنَّ فَتَنَّ قَوْمَكَ مِنْ بَعْدِكَ وَأَضَلَّهُمُ السَّامِرِي. He knew Moses. He came back, he went to whom did he go? He spoke in a very hierarchical process. He started by the children of Israel. He spoke to them. I don't want to go far with this. And then he spoke to the Samiri, who caused the tribulation. He spoke to his brother Aaron, and then spoke at the end to the Samiri. To understand what does it mean usury, what does it mean stock market, and what does it mean fiat money. I wish I had more time to speak, but anyway, listen, thank you for your attention. I see you soon.